This is our first time doing a panel. Woo! Give it up for, oh, whoa, is the phone okay? Someone got a bit too excited about panels there. It's all good, everyone, it's all good. Cool, so yeah, we're doing a little panel today. Hopefully it'll be the first of many. We got some lovely panelists who are all creative and Asian. There we go. It's going to be one of those days. Would you guys mind introducing yourself? Becky, would you like to start?
Yeah. Hello. Testing. Is it all right? Yeah. Yeah. I've seen many of you at Occasians events before. But for those that don't know, my name is Becky, and I promote Korean culture on social media. I'm half Korean, half English, and I've also made it my personal mission to promote New Malden as the Koreatown of London. And aside from that, I also love to try and promote hanbok, hence why I've incorporated some of it in my outfit today, and I'm very happy to be part of this panel.
Testing also, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I also know a fair amount of you in this room, and I'd love to meet more of you afterwards. My name is Nabila. I do fashion content as well as speaking about social justice issues, I suppose. I run a charity shop in Stratford, and I'm a British Bangladeshi Shia Muslim.
Shit. Hi, I'm Maynard. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker, content creator. I'm from Cebu. I was born there in the Philippines. Philippines!
Oi! Oi! Philippines! Oi! Let's get it all out now.
Let's get it all out. Yeah. I have a social. Oh shit! What is it? Nick. I have a social creative agency with my business partner Nick, and together with him, we are also both community leaders, and we have also a creative community, similar to Occasians. All creatives are welcome. Thank you.
What's the name of it?
Lit Creative Crew. It's very casual.
It's very cool. Check them out. If you like Occasions, Lit Creatives Crew is very, very cool. The stuff they're doing is great.
Hi guys, I'm Keisha Quijano. I feel like we're doing the Filipino representation on this side. Philippines! Oi, Philippines!
Segregation going on over there.
I feel like I'll go through all my something. So I was Miss Philippines UK 2019. And I mean, I've given over the crown now, but I guess to go through the current the day job, the 9 to 6, I just left investment banking and I'm in kind of business innovation currently. The evening job, I guess, is kind of part-time model, kind of London Fashion Week, runway, that kind of vibe. And
So
then,
nonchalant. That kind of vibe, you know. Pretty big deal.
And then kind of on weekends or, the free time that I do have, kind of repping the Filipino-British culture and what it means to be kind of the intersection between those two things. Like, not just someone in the Philippines coming over here and just kind of what does that mean? Not just someone that is British and kind of happens to have links to the Philippines, but like what it really means to be both and represent both. Yeah, lovely to see you guys and can't wait to chat more.
Amazing. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming down. Yeah, me. So my name is Ray. I'm also a filmmaker. I got started on YouTube when I was 12 years old in 2006, and I am no longer 12. It's just my name, Ray Roberts, on all the socials. Google me. Anyway, let's kick things off with something a little bit lighthearted. What what pieces of Asian-related media have you guys been consuming recently? Is there anything you want to shout out? Any artists? Any TV? Film?
Favorite films?
Let's not do that.
That's coming up. That's the second question.
Would content creator count?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I've been following someone on Instagram called Aiden Kim, and he's a Korean American content creator, and his content is based around he's Korean, but he moved to America, and then he decided to move back to Korea because he saw how much poverty the elderly Korean community are living in Korea, in terms of there's this term called cardboard ladies and elderly people that sell vegetables on the street, and they're out there from early in the morning to night selling vegetables. So he used his savings money to go to Korea, and then he films the content, but he blurs out the faces for privacy, and he buys all of their produce. And then most of the time, the elderly ladies say, "Oh, no, why are you taking all my product?" Because they have this shame associated with taking money from a stranger. But what he's trying to do is spread kindness and positivity and hope to inspire others to do the same. And the reason he's putting it on social media is because he wants to create a kind of fund for the elderly Korean community, because yes, there is K-pop and there is K-drama, but there's been a loss of family structure in Korean society, and lots of elderly people are struggling. And seeing his content is really, really inspiring for what he's doing for the community. So that's someone I've been following, and you should definitely check him out as well.
Amazing. How are we going to top that? You're just going to say Pokemon.
Well, I was going to bring it up a little bit, and I'm sure that you guys have been kind of watching TV and stuff, and you can't miss that the Olympics has just happened. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just because, again, repping Philippines, kind of we got the 2 gold medals this time, plus a few bronzes as well, and it was like, whoa, like Philippines is finally coming on the map, and seeing other Asian countries as well, like repping their own sports and kind of coming with the beautiful like opening and closing ceremony outfits. I was like, that's pretty damn cool. And then second, like, the social media content creation thing. I don't know why, but all of a sudden my, like, For You page, my, like, algorithm is weirdly, like, maybe it's coming to the age, they show me, like, wedding things, but, hold on. But the link to the Asian side, like, a lot of, like, mixed couples and, like, how they integrate kind of their own heritage with their, like, wedding ceremonies and, like, the parties and like the food and everything like that. And it's been, for me, like a really good journey about learning other people's cultures and like their fashion sense and what all of like a tea ceremony means and like who's part of that and how to mix that with like white culture and like how to do that well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh, I love this content. Scary for the wedding part, but like I like the learning about other cultures part. So that's been my thing.
Who wants to go next? Nabila?
Okay, well, so obviously I'm a DJ now, if you didn't see before. Thank you. And I love R&B music in English, Korean, and Chinese. So I think if I were to recommend somebody right now, a bit more lighthearted, is a Chinese-American artist called Karen Cici. Some of you guys know her. I think she's queer. She has a lot of really cool music. So definitely check her out. And something I didn't mention before, but links to what we were talking about earlier on, is that I studied Chinese at uni. So I posted my first TikTok today in Chinese, which is a bit different for me because I never mentioned that.
What's
but
the TikTok
yeah,
handle?
at Nablo, Nablo. Thank you. Oh, it's right there. Everything's at that. How about you?
I have 2. As an Asian, I've really been a huge fan of a DP called Xiaolong DP or Xiaolong Lu. He's done huge work in the music video and commercial industries. SZA, Billie Eilish, huge artists. Definitely like watch a sick music video and just look at the credits. You'll definitely know it'll probably be Xiaolong. As a Filipino, definitely just all the content creators that have been popping up, especially in the last year. And even bigger, and obviously not to big up LCC, but I'd say LCC and together with Occasians as well, as Ray as a community leader, there are so many other Filipinos being a community leader outside of this country as well. And not just Filipinos, but Asians as well. So there's a few in America, Canada, Daiki in Madrid as well. So just seeing Asians really like build communities together is so sick.
Amazing. All right, Becky, this next question is for you. So, as you already mentioned, Korean culture as a whole in the West has it's had so much more exposure. Parasite won, every Oscar pretty much that year. K-pop has become super mainstream. But for you, what does it mean to you to be a Korean cultural ambassador?
I think for me, I use my social media platform as a journey to discover my Korean side because I'm half English, but most people just assume I'm fully Korean. So my upbringing has been trying to push away my Koreanness and trying fitting into British society, and it took me a long time to accept my Korean side. So I use my social media to discover my Korean identity through my lens, because growing up, I heard about what it is to be Korean through my mum's perspective, but she was born just after the Korean War. So her vision of what it is to be Korean is different to mine, especially being second gen. And with the rise of Hallyu Wave and all the perfectionism of Korean culture, that's very surface level, and it's now kind of become, Korean culture has become what the West expects from Koreans and Korean culture. And I kind of want to focus on more of the ordinaries of what it is to be British Korean, the communities, the first gen, like my mum's generation that came to the UK. What about their stories? How did they triumph? How did they struggle? And that's why I try and do a lot of community work in New Malden, because despite it being the largest Korean community in Europe, and everyone's so fanatic about K-pop and K-drama, still a lot of people aren't aware of that. So it just shows that a lot more work needs to be done, and that's what I'm striving to do. So through that, this year I started K Supper Club, which is a monthly supper club where I invite people to a Korean-owned restaurant, and I'm really particular about the restaurant because it has to be authentic. And I've focused on New Malden to try and promote the family-owned businesses, and all the money that's raised through the ticketing goes to the restaurants. It's not something I do for profit because my full-time job is being a teacher. So all the profits go to the Korean families, and it's also just to spotlight the Korean families that work so hard, and it's usually the first gen that works so hard to come here to give the second gen, like my generation, a better life than what it is in Korea. And I find it interesting that so many people want to live in Korea, mainly non-Koreans, because how they will be perceived in Korea is different to an actual Korean person, and how hard it is for a Korean person to live in Korea is very different to what it is for a foreigner going to live in Korea. But that's another topic.
No, I like it. We're getting deep already. But no, thank you. On the note of K Supper Clubs, I've been to quite a few now, and they are very good. They're very good. You pick the best restaurants. We get and also the value you get. Exclusive discounts. And Becky will always put out a menu of what you're getting for when you buy a ticket. And no matter what, every time we go there, there's always 10 times more stuff that wasn't ever mentioned, but I warmly welcome into my stomach. But no, thank you. So Keisha.
I feel nervous. I'm like, okay.
No, don't be nervous.
Okay.
Don't be nervous. I'm about to be really honest right now and say that, as a man, I don't know anything about pageantry, but for as many Filipinos would know that beauty pageants are a lot bigger in the Philippines.
It's like isn't it the Philippines is like boxing, basketball, and beauty pageants, like the three
BBB.
Bs, that's it.
Yeah, it's I don't know the history behind it, but it's like without a doubt a huge and respected thing in the Philippines. And I guess for me, as a naive man, surface level, before I met you, I always saw beauty pageants as like something that's quite just shallow. You know, that's probably what a lot of people assume about them. But I'm curious, for you, what did it mean to be Miss Philippines UK?
Yeah, and you know, starting off, that's like such a fair assumption, because probably a lot of people in this room, like you guys, have seen like toddlers and tiaras and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, like, okay. And I was too, so like that's actually, there's no shame in that. I got scouted at the hairdressers, and they were like, oh, you should join this beauty pageant, and I was like, no, like, no way. Like, it's full of airheads, like, they just use you for your body, you're just traipsing around in, like, your bikini. There's no way that I'm doing anything like that. It's kind of disrespectful for, like, you know, me and my education and everything like that. So I went in thinking, ill beauty pageants, even though it's huge in the Philippines. But, and I'm happy to talk about this kind of later, like, one-on-one or with anyone, but I have to say, like, the beauty pageants and, like, the big top beauty pageants, yeah, sure, it's a lot about the glitz and glamour, and yeah, sure, it's about kind of like how you are on stage and stuff like that. But what I've like learned from going through the experience, from like meeting other queens and stuff like that, it's so much more. Like that's just the surface level of like, okay, how do you capture an audience? How do you go around on a stage? How do you answer questions about politics or whatnot there and then? But for me, and like that's so much more than that. It's about what message you want to portray within your reign, or like not even if you win, like even if you don't win, it's like what do you stand for, and what are you using the platform to do, to, you know, what do you stand for? I guess, yeah, nothing much to say aside from that. But to your question, like what does it mean to be Miss Philippines UK? For me, it's been a way of reaching back to my heritage. So I think, Becky, kind of when you were mentioning like your past, like I've had such a similar experience, and we've talked about this a lot. I born in the Philippines, moved here when I was 2, very much integrated in the like white British community. You can hear from my voice. Grew up in Kent, and like to me, there was no like, oh, you're Filipino, you know, that's just you're othering. I was like, I'm just, you know, it's part of me. I'm just hanging out with my friends. Like, cool. It's only until recently that I was like, oh wait, there's a whole nother side of me that I've just never really explored. And it's not like it was ever like shunned or like, you know, it's bad to be Filipino. It's just like it never came up, you know? And just through Miss Philippines UK and like meeting other like Asian creatives and stuff, it's like a real chance for me to connect with my heritage and not just be like, okay, this is about the history of the Philippines, or like shamed for not learning the language or anything like that. It's kind of like okay, what does this mean for you? And I want to try and put that message out to other people of like, not just Filipinos, but like being Asian and something else. Like, okay, find that intersection, find that middle of the Venn diagram. Like, you don't just have to be, I'm an Asian living in Britain. Like, it's like, okay, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to reinvent it? How are you going to innovate that? And that's really what I kind of got from Miss Philippines UK and like my journey after that. It was kind of the way of starting that, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity, the whole organization, the kind of support and everything like that. So that's what it is for me, and happy to have conversations after it, happy to kind of hear about other people and what the intersection between British, Asian creative means for them. It's something that's super exciting.
I'm sure that many people in the room also can relate to both of some of the experiences you had growing up here. Can I get a show of hands if any of that resonated with you in terms of just like, there we go. just a room full of people with identity crises.
I feel like there's such a difference though with like, I've met so many people who have like born and raised in London, let's say, and they have such different experiences to like what I've had in like just a predominantly white community. And learning about that and what that means for them has been like educational, well, weirdly educational for me too, being like, oh, well, you've grown up where like it's been so multicultural and that's been such a big part of your life. Like, whoa, what does that mean for you guys? Like, has this always been the case for you? Like, it's just mind-blowing. yeah, different people, different kind of things. And people who, for example, have been in their, respective foreign countries until the age of recent, and they're like, oh no, I've just come over here. I'm like, whoa, that's a different experience for you. Like, welcome. You finding your community and whatnot. Like, I'm excited for you and your journey as well. Like, it's just incredible hearing different people and when they've come over and their journeys. Like, it's cool.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
We're all healing right now. I hope you see that.
This is a group therapy session, so
that was the main aim.
yeah.
So Nabila, on social media, you share just a vast range of kinds of content from, as you already mentioned, fashion content, stories from your charity shop, social justice. It just makes me curious. What inspires you the most to share on social?
Well, it might sound a bit cliche, but I love making things, and this is the cliche part. But to me, creativity is a little bit like breathing. I just can't help but do it. And then after that, what am I going to do with it? I'd love to share it with other people because maybe they might resonate, maybe they might smile. Like, if anything, they can swipe past it. That's fine. I just love making stuff. But I think beyond that, I know a lot of influencers, content creators, and I could have easily gone down a different path, which is a bit more geared towards gaining followers. There's lots of intersections of my identity as well, which are quite marketable. For instance, being a Bengali Shia is one thing. A girl who went to Oxford and speaks Chinese is another thing. If I put that all together, that is quite a cool story. But I kind of refuse to do that because I don't want to pigeonhole myself, for starters. Second of all, I refuse to be a product. I'd rather have a lot of interests and share them. Sometimes, if people find that confusing, that's fine. You can swipe past that. I think more importantly, though, rather than speaking about what I do, it's maybe like why I do it. My platform is by no means big, but I think everyone is kind of an influencer in their own right, whether you like to hold that title or not. And we all have the opportunity to do good with that if we want to. It doesn't need to be super taxing. It doesn't need to be like a big burden. Like, just speaking up, talking about something that is maybe on your mind can really open up someone else's eyes. For instance, kind of like a elephant in the room right now is that there is a genocide unfolding on our TV screens, on our telephones and all that kind of stuff. And I've been speaking up about that a lot. But not only that, when Asian hate was on the rise in 2020 due to the COVID pandemic, especially affecting the Chinese community. And speaking onto that as well, my dad has an Indian Bengali restaurant. He also faced consequences from the racism from COVID because everybody just hated Asian things. Just anything Asian.
They just wanted something to blame.
It wasn't very good.
We're still seeing the effects. Different. That's the easy one to blame.
Yeah, we look a bit different. But I spoke up a lot about that, Stop Asian Hate, other things. The genocide happening in Palestine right now, also against Shias. If it has cost me a few followers here or there, I don't really mind because what are a few followers compared to 40,000 plus lives? And before I end on that note, I think if we combine everybody's followers in this room, that's a lot of followers. If all of us just said one thing, maybe once a week even, you could really make some meaningful change. So I'd invite you to try that.
Genuinely, I really respect it. I feel like with how, like I said earlier, I've been doing YouTube since I was a kid in 2006. I've been quite close to the rise of influencer culture. I've seen it develop. I've been really close to it, and it's been kind of soul destroying, kind of watching it go from being like a purely non-monetary creative thing to something that's super monetary, and you can literally make a whole career on clout. So just to hear your perspective is like.
But you know what, to add to one more thing, I think another issue that I've seen from a content creator who has a very big platform, she was struggling with the fact that all of her hobbies that she does in her spare time, she can't do them for fun anymore because she always sees them with the monetized aspect. Everything she does kind of is like a product. And that is very mentally taxing. Not to say it's an issue. If you want to do that, by all means do that. But I think in this room in particular, we kind of need to assess if that's the route we want to go down. Sometimes it's cool to do something for yourself. You don't need to film it. And I know I put a lot on my stories, so it's rich coming from me. But there's a lot that I actually don't put out there, very intentionally. So that's another thing to think about.
Well, thank you. Maynard.
Oh, shit.
So you and me, we're both filmmakers, both content creators, and yeah, like I kind of just mentioned, it's, it's been moving rapidly, even in like I'm not just talking like the last like 10 years, but the last few years. It's crazy how many more avenues there are within like the world of film and video there are to take. There are careers being created every day which didn't exist like a couple of years.
University courses, shout out one. Content creation for uni, that's mad.
Oh, where is that?
Ravensbourne?
At Ravensbourne.
Yeah.
That's mad.
It's
That's
crazy.
mad.
Crazy.
It's kind of what I find funny about that is it might be like a kind of thing of I heard this being said in regards to, I think it was like any textbook about computing or technology in general. By the time it's printed, it's out of date.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, like, are you guys like still, are they teaching like Snapchat or?
You sound so old.
Nah, I'm joking. They're still on Vine. Anyway, my question for you.
Oh shit. Okay, cool.
So this kind of like world of filmmaking with all the new avenues and how incredibly more accessible it's become. Like, you could even argue like filmmaking has become democratized. Like one quote I really like is writing became democratized with the invention of the pen. Filmmaking became democratized with the invention of an iPhone. And it's complete, like everyone has a phone that can record video now. It's accessible to absolutely everyone. But despite that, would you still say that the filmmaking space is dominated by a particular...
Yes.
Speak on it.
Tell me more.
I think it's definitely growing. I think I can't put that aside, but it's definitely still so dominated. It's definitely still so cliquey. And it's a problem in the industry and also just like in most communities anyway, like being cliquey, because I feel like being cliquey stops growth within those. But yeah, yes, definitely. I really have to open up about this, don't I? Yeah, I think that's
Just
partly...
to be clear, we're talking about the whites.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right?
Yes.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think that is the way?
We are in a country that is supposed to be white. I guess that's a huge part of it, in my opinion. As background, I moved to the UK when I was 12, and similar to Keisha, I lived in a very white place called Cambridge. And it's not even just that, it was a village just outside of Cambridge, so it's even more white. I was like 1 out of 5 POCs in the whole school. That's a lot. That's a lot. So yeah, like I think in the sense of representation, it wasn't really big to me until moving to London. And being in the industry and seeing just how white it is crazy. Me and my business partner, Nick, we went on a shoot a few months ago, and we just looked at each other and like, bro, we're the only brown people here. And obviously it's an expensive industry, and it's an industry that has a lot of budget. And even with Ray, where we interviewed a Filipino filmmaker, and there was basically no love when he showcased his film here in the UK, and even though it was like a Filipino-British film as well, things like that really started adding up. And yeah, I think that's why in this community I'm really just trying to show, we're really trying to show openness. It doesn't really kind of matter where you're from or whatever, but we're just trying to like showcase as much knowledge as possible, because I feel like that's the problem with being cliquey, going back to it, because that's where knowledge isn't shared. People are being cliquey because they don't want to talk to someone who's holding the same brand camera as them. They like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Just because the camera isn't the same price, just because they can't rent a 60K camera doesn't mean that you can't you can't learn from them. Just even sharing, it's something so simple as like, this is how I color grade, this is how changing your shutter speed. It's something so simple you can learn on site, even from the side of the road. Like, yo, bro, how do I change my camera settings? Do it like this. But being so cliquey and, I guess in this white industry, that is a problem because they refuse to do that unless you drink with them.
Knowing that one down.
Yeah, I say that with a pinch of salt, but with a little bit of truth, because again, growing up in Cambridge, where I feel like I really didn't belong unless I drank with people, is kind of mad. So yeah.
I've got a question about filmmaking and kind of the film industry. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, being on the consumer side, I feel like with a lot of kind of Asian films and like Asian filmmakers, it tends to be a lot of kind of like Asian topics. And I don't know, I just feel like as someone, perhaps like putting myself in like maybe like a person who is white, like it's almost like there's a barrier to like watching those films because like, oh, is this for me? Like, am I allowed to watch this? Like, is this just like your protected space community to enjoy like you guys doing you? But then on the other side, does it create that like pressure as kind of like someone from like a different heritage to be like, oh, like they're expecting me to make Asian content and Asian films because I'm Asian? Or like, what is your guys' experience on like making content that isn't Asian, or films that aren't to do necessarily with an Asian topic? Or is that your passion? It's like, this needs to be said, this is what needs to be done, this is why I'm doing this? I don't know. What's your guys' experience of that?
I think this has been on my mind, especially as someone who's grown to be a content creator, and I guess someone with like a little bit of a louder voice. Like my platform isn't big, but it's nice to see that people are messaging me. It's like, oh, I've got the same camera as you, and things like that really like bring a smile to my face. But to answer that question, I think I'm really trying to take myself out of that. I have to make this because I'm Asian and I have to speak about this, because I'm trying to convey the message of just being open. And again, a lot of Hollywood white films, it's just about what they want to show, about what they think about, what kind of, I don't know, some horror films that they think about, like stuff like that. And that's what I'd say matters to me. I think it should just be stories told, doesn't matter what the story is, but it's told by someone of color. I think that's what I'm more passionate about, just because like I love the films that are, I can't like oh shit. I love the films that are really deep and definitely hit certain messages, and I don't know, it can be like certain topics, and kind of like almost documentary based, almost trauma based, like maybe stuff like that, right? But outside of that, I don't want that to be associated, they're making this trauma-based film because they're Asian. Because I think that's what, not slowly, I think that's what a lot of people, that's what white people think we make films for, or like we like kind of show message or send messages for, because they're making this because they got hurt by something, right? Obviously there is a message of that, but at the same time, there's definitely a way to just show who you are as a person, who you are as a creative, whilst like, just be you. I don't know. Yeah.
I agree. There we go. Yeah, I agree completely, but also at the same time, I think it's like a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, because it's so important, even because we are so underspoken anyway.
Yeah. Like I'm not a fan of when my white friends send me clips from Sesame Street where they just shove Filipino culture down kids' throats. Because what 4-year-old is going to be like, oh, today on Sesame Street they were talking Tagalog, and I
Makes no sense.
Also, just every time Sesame Street or Disney Channel do something like that, I always get a white friend who sends it to me like, "Hey, bro, this is fucking so cool. You must love it."
Yeah.
And it was in No Way Home when Ned's grandma
the
spoke.
Lola, yeah.
I was one of the Filipinos in the cinema who did cheer and applaud that.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, I was like, why the fuck did I? It was so forced.
Yeah.
It was just 15 seconds of just Tagalog with no subtitles. It made it really fucking
Made no sense.
it was weird.
Yeah,
It
I
was-
think one great example, in my opinion, so far, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but we've just finished watching Umbrella Academy season 4, and does anyone know where Jennifer is from? She's another girl that joined in the crew, whatever. But yeah, she's Filipino. She's Filipino Canadian. And stuff like that, I think it's just the fact that it's just so nicely integrated. I think kind of all right, cool, that's cool.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I can speak about it as a Filipino, but for those of you who aren't Filipino, you might have not seen the meme that every Filipino has been quoting recently, and it's just this Pinoy guy in his room reacting to something Filipino by going, "Hey, Philippines, Philippines," and that is every Filipino's reaction when something Filipino is shown in front of them. I remember watching High School Musical for the first time, and my mum goes, "Oi, she's Filipino."
Filipino.
Well, why are they making her out to be Mexican? She doesn't care. She doesn't care at all. My mum, she's never cared about boxing. Every time Manny Pacquiao was fighting, pay-per-view, she'd pay for it every time. We'd watch it. She loved it. Mike Tyson, she doesn't care. She doesn't even know his name. Anyway.
I think the funny thing is I'm turning into that I'm turning into that auntie, being oh, Nicole shows me. I'm like, "Psst, she's Filipino, she's half Filipino," and they're really yeah, she's Filipino. Olivia Rodrigo, "Oh, she's also Filipino," and my friends are like, "Who isn't Filipino at this point?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Shout out to her. She was at singing at the Olympics closing. I was like, Filipino, and they're like, "We get it." I was like, Filipino. So big old represent, but I'm turning into that person.
Yeah.
Amazing. I hope we all do one day. Anyway, kind of related to that, I'm curious what you guys, if there was a piece of media, or perhaps an individual who was in media, an actor or someone, who gave you that feeling of representation, I guess, for the first time. Is there anything in your life where you had one of those kind of moments? Do you want to start, Becky?
I think not a person, but the first time I felt seen and represented was, not the first time, but a recent one was watching Beef on Netflix. With
I like beef. Burger.
It's not representing British Koreans, but it was touching on kind of the dark side of human nature, and I liked the fact that the characters just happened to be Asian. It wasn't the whole Netflix drama. It wasn't about them being Asian and identity crisis that we all go through. They just happened to be Asian and struggling through life, which we all do. But it touched upon things which I could relate to, especially when they showed the Korean churches and how, because I'm a Christian and I go to a Korean church, and there's this kind of invisible pressure on you to always represent your family, and all the aunties talking about what their son and daughters are doing, and there's always this pressure, and it's quite toxic. And in some way it's good because it gives you a moral compass, and you have to adjust your behavior because you're always thinking, oh, what will people say about my family name? It's always at the forefront. But at the same time, it can be really stressful as well, because sometimes you want to go outside the box or do things that maybe your family don't approve of, such as jobs or creativity. And it's like balancing that. And I think Beef really touched upon that. And even that there was this really horrible guy. I can't remember his name. I think in real life he's actually a bad guy as well. And he played like this really narcissistic, woman-hating guy. And you always in Korean culture get that person that just expects respect from you just because they're older, and they don't always deserve it. And I don't know if it's because I grew up here, so I have a strong sense of democracy where I kind of feel like, well, if you don't earn my respect, why am I going to give it to you? I don't know if I'd grown up in Korea, if I just naturally give that kind of person respect. But Beef touched upon so many of those things, and it was so enthralling. And I feel like even if you're not Korean American or have any kind of Korean heritage, I feel so many people could relate to the topics that Beef brought up.
Amazing. Woo! I'm loving all the applause after every answer. I think Beef is genuinely it's like similar to what you touched on earlier. It's, as you said, it's Asian without forcing it down people's throats. It gives us representation without, having to do a big song and dance and alienate anyone who can't relate to it. What about you, Nabila?
So I'll be real. I want to be very honest with all my answers. Have I seen representation that I felt represented in? No, I haven't. Is that an issue? Yes. But I think rather than sitting there and being sad about it, I want to make my own representation. Thinking of a very literal example, actually, I'm not always going to wait for somebody to open the door. I can open it myself. Or I can at least try to. Thank you. I can try to, and it might take a bit longer, but I think it's worthwhile doing that because none of us are the same. Like, even on this panel, we're very different, even though we're all Asian. So we're not going to be telling the same story. Sometimes you need to go do it yourself because some white director is not going to tell my story for me, and I learned that a long time ago. Miss Marvel was decent, I guess. At best, maybe. But there's a long way to go even with that example, and I bring that story up, or that narrative up, because I mentioned it on a different panel closer to the time that it came out. It was cool at the time because we were so starved of seeing brown people on screen. Like, I had to say it was cool because there's nothing else to look at. I think there's a long way to go in terms of, for example, and I'm going to bring this up a lot because it's important to me, Shia representation in the media. It's cool that she was Muslim, but there's lots of subtle nods to show her denomination or some of the things that are important to her. I don't know if anybody grew up watching Phineas and Ferb. Yeah, cool. So do you guys remember there was a brown kid called Mishti? Yeah. Mishti, really? That means sweet. That's the name of a sweet. Like, what are you doing? So I'm done waiting on people to represent me. I'll just represent myself, and hopefully we can all do that together. But yeah.
Let's all cancel Ferb. What about you, Maynard?
I think, do anyone watch the Disney ads? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think for me, that's probably that. I don't know if it's actually directing.
Oh, you mean
those.
the Christmas?
The Christmas Disney ads that represent, it shows a migrant Filipina woman living in London, I think. Something like that. And it shows like London snowing. It never snows in London. But anyway.
Especially that nice.
I know. But I think it's got 3 episodes, or 3 or 4. And I think that one really touched me, especially as of like recently. Because it shows not the grandma that's actually like, but it's mainly like about, I think, her daughter or her grandchild, I think. Her growing up, her making paroles, which is the Filipino lanterns that I have proof that I introduced to my girlfriend, that we made that last year together with Nick as well. So like we have like, some pictures of us making like Christmas lanterns last Christmas. And then the young girl, obviously she grows up and she has some kids, Asian kids, I think. And then she leaves that partner. Yeah, but that's a spoiler. she leaves that partner, and then she has then a black partner after that. And so the black guy is now the stepdad of the 2 kids. And I'm also a stepdad to my half Jamaican, quarter Jamaican, quarter white, half Chinese, quarter Chinese maybe stepson, so it's my girlfriend's son. Basically Filipino. Oh, Philippines! Saying all of that is literally Filipino. But anyway, I'm also a stepdad, and now also going to become a dad. Yeah, that really touched me. I think I come to that. Like, I watch that sometimes. It's like in the middle of the night, and then like, I don't know, go back. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. I need to look at the director.
Keisha, what about you?
So I'm gonna. There's 2 things I want to mention, and it's gonna get a massive ugh. And like, I've been thinking a lot about what I'm gonna say, and then there's like the preface and everything. But okay, I'll just say it. So number 1, I'm not sure if any of you like musicals fan, but like, it's gonna get such an ugh. But like, watching Miss Saigon, for me was the first time I was like, oh, okay, like, whoa, there's like Asians on screen, like Asians are singing and dancing and like amazing. It's not just like, I'm like, oh, I see you, like I see you and I see me, and like, whoa. BTW, I'm a Filipino, one of those unfortunate Filipinos who cannot sing, so not gifted in that aspect. But yeah, seeing that in front of my eyes, I'm like a huge musical fan. I was like, oh, whoa, like this could be, like if I was to go down that route, this could be me, like, whoa, it's the roles that Asians could play. Amazing. Now looking back, I'm like, why are all the roles that Asians have, why are they all desperate women? Why? And there was an amazing play that was like, I think it was like Untitled Fuck Miss Saigon, which I went to watch, and it was so good, and like, the message behind it, I was like, oh, wait, shit. Like, why is it always desperate woman who gives up her life for her kids to the white guy? I'm like, yeah, that seems to always be the narrative. But I have to say, like, at the time, that just, like, it wasn't something that was talked, that just was the roles that were given to you, and like that was the thing that people understood. So I'm like, okay, at the time that maybe it was created, I kind of get it. But now we're in this community, like we should, and in this time we should sort of push for more. So that was the first time I was like, whoa, Asians on stage, whoa, amazing. And then the second one, another, Crazy Rich Asians? Yeah, so for the same reasons of like, whoa, I see people who look like me on screen, incredible. And there are people from different cultures that are like amazing, and they're kind of, some of them look and sound like me, some of them, like, awesome. But then I think I'm, again, shouting at my privilege of like, I don't look Filipino. Like, I have light skin in comparison. Like, I could pass for, most people think I'm Chinese or something, Singaporean. And like, seeing that, I'm like, okay, I see them because they look like me. So yeah, they don't represent all Asians. Yeah, they don't represent like the people who have like morena or like darker skin, or like the islander girls, But for me, in my heart, I was like, whoa, like, it's a whole film of people that look like me and, like, understand, like, they're talking about Asian culture. I've never had that before. Like, oh, my God. But I recognize my kind of position, looking like I do, seeing that on the roll. That's a privilege. I know there's some, like, other people who are the dark-skinned girlies and guys who are like, nope, that didn't speak for me. Like, that wasn't me. Like, no. And that's something that I kind of want to hear from the panel, and also later on the room, about as someone who's like, white passing is not the right word, light passing, I guess, like, how does that, like, I just have so many mixed thoughts about, like, yeah, all the representations that are Asian, like, the girlies probably look like me. Yeah, they're pitching to the, like, Chinese, like Hong Kong markets who have the money and that's like the luxury fashion and everything like that. They're pitching to girls who look like me, who like the light-skinned Korean girlies who do the K-pop. Like those are the girls and probably the guys who are getting the ads, who are getting shown because that's what market they're selling to. How does someone like me then almost accept that? It's not like, oh, like, wow, poor me, like, oh no, like, there's struggles, like, but how do I take that and how do I feel okay with that, as well as how do I use my power as someone who isn't them to uplift other people? Like, I don't want to be like, oh no, don't give me the role, because I'm also like, please give me the role. It's like, do you uplift all Asians? I mean, like, I need this role because I need to represent Asians, and like, not a lot of Asians get those roles. Like, let me do it. Let me be that face. Or do you like say, oh, but there are others who also need this like representation? Do you give the role to them? And it's like, where's the balance in that? And like, I'd really, really want like a genuinely open discussion about that, because I feel like a lot of discussions that people have been having within the Asian community is like, oh, but you're light-skinned, you don't get to say anything. Like, you're always represented. Like, who are you to be discussing this? I'm like, yes, but I'm also Asian, and in the big context of things, we're not represented. So, like, what are the positive steps that can be taken, and how can we have the discussion in an open manner, Not just like, you guys are representing the colonizers, and like, stuff like that. Like, I get it. Like, I can sympathize with the feelings, because that's what I feel about kind of like more like white people, let's say. But then almost it's like, what can we do then? And I'd love to have that discussion with you guys afterwards of like, brown skin girlies and guys, like what can we do? Like, please, can we have like an open discussion? Can we have something that isn't just like, you? Okay, tell me, like, what can I be doing? Can we have like, not like a checklist, but like some ideas of like, how can we lift you guys up with us? If we're being pulled for these roles, okay, how do we pull you up as well? And that kind of thing, so.
Can I add to that? I definitely know, as someone who's definitely a dark-skinned Filipino, dark-skinned Asian, that races through my mind all the time. I'll watch something that has an Asian person in it, and I'm like, is that enough? Is that the tick box that I needed to feel validated, that I'm represented? And a lot of the time, no. I watched Shang-Chi, and I was like, no. What's the other film you mentioned?
Crazy Rich Asians.
I was like, no. I'm like, am I rich? No. am I a white Asian that has these problems about buying jewelry and shit? No. Am I a woman? No. And so a lot of this stuff, I really have to disassociate, and I have to like, cool, it's just another movie for me. And I have to accept, I think with a lot of these things, like, I just have to accept that, cool, that's not really for me, like representing me, but that's not a bad thing, doesn't stop there, that shouldn't get me down. All right, cool, what will represent me in the future? That's kind of like how I like to think about these things, because rather than looking for problems and pointing out, this wasn't there, like, that could have been someone, doesn't matter, it's already been done. So what can we do next, I guess, is like what I try to think about. Because like, as an Asian that has natural curly hair and has wide shoulders, that's not common. Like, I look more like a Pacific Islander than I am Asian. And like, do we get a lot of love? No, not really. Do we get called like, oh, you're not really that Asian, stuff like that? Yeah, cool. Like we do get that. And like, that's on top of already being brown. Like, there's brown Filipinos with straight hair, probably lives in Luzon. I'm like, all right, cool, they're Filipino. And there's probably like a lot of representation there as well. And like, as someone who grew up in the Philippines and watching all the, anyone here grew up in the Philippines? Anyway, is anyone familiar with a soap called Perla? Yeah. Cool. So like, growing up watching loads of like armpit ads, it's gonna make you white. It's this soap that's gonna make you pale and stuff like that. That's what I grew up with. And there was, even as a Filipino living in the Philippines, there was no representation of my skin tone. It's all light skin, even Sandara Park from 2NE1, like, I think she learned Filipino to be in Filipino adverts in the Philippines, to be lighter skin, sun silk and like sumusunod, stuff like that. So, it's definitely, we're nowhere near. I think as a whole Asian community, I think we're like third in the priority list. And I'm going to be, it's definitely white, black, Asian. And, it's like, it's growing. And I think that's what I'd like to focus on. Rather than like, well, it's not going well, I think it's going well in the sense of there's growth. And there's definitely like progress, so yeah.
Absolutely. I think, like, one thing I did want to talk about today was about, like, for example, the term EC, East and Southeast Asian, as like a category. He's rubbing his hands, he knows. Shots about to be fired. As a term, it's something which I didn't really see until events and discussions were being had during Stop Asian Hate, during COVID. And prior to that, it was like, depending on who I would speak to, I'd get completely different reactions to when I, would say where I was from and how they would like categorize me. Because for, a lot of people, again, coming from the perspective of being Filipino, a lot of people don't always associate Filipinos with being Asian, and also that can mean completely different to someone else. It's like you can go to a different school, talk to someone else, and they're like, oh no, you're not Asian. Asians they're from South Asia. It's such a strange thing, and I find it so kind of strange how human beings we just love categorizing people, grouping people together. And as much as I love seeing all of these discussions, communities, collectives around the EC community, I want to play devil's advocate a little bit and just talk a little bit about what are some of the negatives that come from grouping us all together. Because it goes without saying, we have a lot of similarities in East and Southeast Asia, but we also have very drastic differences. And I feel like grouping us together, even amongst ourselves, we kind of just like, we all can't relate. And just like, just from you two sharing your experiences there, as two Filipinos have very different experiences, why are we grouped together? Is it just because white people just see us and think, oh, they eat rice and noodles, they're Asian? And then also, and again, I'm not against these kind of events happening, because I fucking run one. But at the same time, I think it's really important not to alienate other migrants, even white people. Anyone should be welcome to join in this discussion. It's similar to what you were saying about cliques, like seeing the EC community and discussions happen in the last few years since COVID. It's been hard to not notice like cliques kind of forming and these discussions just going around in a circle and not really going anywhere.
And yeah, I honestly, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you there, because honestly, I'm in some group chats, like EC group chats, and like there's definitely like a few pages as well. And do I feel like I'm part of it? No, it's like watching Shang-Chi. It's literally just that. It's like watching Shang-Chi in WhatsApp. It's I know I am Southeast Asian, but do I really feel like that's a label, like being EC and stuff like that? I don't know. I don't know if that label clicks with me correctly, but what does click with me is the fact that it's EC creatives. It's the creative side that's like, I feel like it's what's the connecting, because rather than the cultural side of things, or like the what's the word? Ethnicity-based like stuff for us to connect. I feel like the fact that we can break down borders by sharing jobs or sharing the same kind of like interests, I think, in my opinion, that's where I think the borders will start going down and the fences kind of like get blurry, because having like Asia in itself has borders. Philippines and China don't like each other. they're trying to fight on some islands or something like that. They're trying to, you know, who silenced who? Korea and Japan don't like each other that much. You know, there's so many things that cause people to not like each other just because of where they're from. You know, just because they're on the other side of the fence, like they're a bad person, right? And that teaches children that. But cool, I'm a filmmaker. I make these videos. Yo, neighbor, do you want to learn? I feel like that's a lot more connecting, and doesn't really matter who your neighbors are. Yeah, I think that's my opinion on that.
And kind of on a similar point, Nabila, I wanted to ask you about in these spaces which have become, in the last few years, have become like traditionally East and Southeast Asian. Perhaps let's mainly talk about the creative space, just to keep it simple. Do you think South Asians can be included in that equation, and should these events and collectives be
My children.
Time?
We're in class now.
Yeah, so do you think these events, these collectives and communities, should they be inclusive of South Asian cultures as well?
I genuinely feel like a teacher.
Can we have quiet in the room, please?
With students. Should we? I don't think we should do anything, to be honest. But I think I really care about genuine representation. And like we've spoken about this a little bit as well outside of this event. I think including South Asian people in, you know, an EC space, for example, is cool, but it's an EC space, you know? The label says what it says. It's really great to have a South Asian person on a panel today, but I think genuine representation goes a long way, and it's a lot more than that. I think it looks like involving South Asian models, hire me, but also using South Asian videographers and photographers, a lot of whom are not in this room today, but I know that they're really cool and I can vouch for them. I think that's the better way to do it. You can keep your label because I think it really serves your community and you guys are doing such a great job. But adding on South Asians, I don't think that's the genuine way to go about it. I think we need to show actual representation on the ground by actually involving people. I also kind of wanted to add on to the question that you asked earlier on and try to answer that from one perspective, which is in terms of combating, like when you have privilege and how do you share roles and all that kind of stuff. For starters, I think if you landed a job, that job was meant for you. Anything that's yours will never miss you. So I think you shouldn't burden yourself with trying to solve a really, really big issue because you're one person. You know, we should all come together and try and combat that big problem. And I think that's one step in the right direction today, right now, that we're kind of doing. One thing I see which is really cool is the Lit Creative Crew group chat, the Occasians group chat, the British Asian creative group chat. Whenever there's jobs and stuff, sometimes people will recommend roles to their friends, and I've done that a lot as well. I think that's one way to use your privilege. Like, be the friend that shouts out their friends when that friend isn't in the room. Don't just gatekeep and keep everything for yourself because that's not going to go very far. I've had lengthy conversations with people that aren't in this room today during COVID times when all of these kind of groups came out. And again, I'll be very honest, I was saying that I don't appreciate how you're claiming to be a British Asian creative collective when it's just EC. Like, just call it what it is because you're doing a good job. You don't need to, like, push us all together because I don't see any brown people besides myself. And that's because I genuinely care about representation. That's why I'm in a lot of these group chats because I want to learn from you guys and I want to be part of it. Genuinely. I don't think we should force people who don't want to be on the receiving end or on the facilitating side, but I think I'm very wary of people that might use the labels like British Asian creative when it's not speaking for all Asians, so maybe don't do that. I know similarly, one day we're going to have a similar conversation about including black creatives and like other minority groups, but again, don't just add them on because trust me, there are many South Asian groups I could go to if I want that, and you know, I kind of just dip in and out of both. So yeah, there is
a black friend of mine who really hates the term POC and BAME, but that's a separate conversation. I'm sure we can have another time or maybe after this panel. So I think that all goes to say we don't need to pigeonhole ourselves. I'm probably going to keep saying the same things, but it's just very important.
I just want to add to that as well, because I think with a lot of the points you mentioned, I'm very Asian. I did maths and I dropped out before I went into filmmaking. But with that though, like I'm really a guy of like proof, and just being me. I wasn't going. So I did a 2-day shoot on for a short film. I brought Vaughn with me. So that was directed by a brown guy, written by a white girl, and the whole set was, what would you say? Mostly white, but there was definitely there were colors in there.
You can't call them that. You can't call them that.
But even including that, but we, I was on job. We were just focusing on what had to be done, and we had another Filipino girl, kind of similar to you, where she was born in the Philippines, moved to Sussex, I believe, and after the shoots, she just sent me a whole lengthy message. I showed it to everyone. Showed it to my girlfriend. I think I showed it to Nick as well, and it was just being just who you are as a person, that you are representing yourself, is already so big. And this is why I say mathematically there's proof, because I think that was proof of what you just said, where if you just represent yourself, someone will get influenced. And that was enough for her to get emotional about it. She didn't even want to leave. She didn't ever even have to be in any of the shoot days, but because she met me, she wanted to be on both. She spent £50 on train tickets just so she could be there. And stuff like that is, I think, where the kind of our message will start to spread. That's the proof.
Can I say something else really quickly? I know which short film you're talking about.
Yeah.
First of all, it looks really cool. Congrats. But second of all, one of the actresses on that short film is also a Shia Muslim girl, and she doesn't ever... Oh, you know her as well, because you were on the film. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't going to out her, because sometimes that's an outing thing, but that's a separate topic. But that just goes to show, she has a huge part of her identity, which is a minority group, and she doesn't need to tell everybody when she meets them that, hi guys, I'm Shia. I also don't do the same, and I was speaking to people in the audience earlier on about parts of my identity that are maybe interesting, but I don't, tell people that when I meet them, because if you know, if it comes up, it comes up. It's whatever. But I think sometimes representing ourselves is just being ourselves and having that on film. There's somebody that I know who is a gay man who works in advertising, and he keeps saying that he really wants to see 2 gay men changing a light bulb. But what he means by that is, a consumer will see that and be like, oh, it's just 2 guys changing a light bulb. But then they happen to be gay, I want to see an advert where a Shia girl eats cereal or goes on a skateboard, and then I know that she's Shia. That's cool. She doesn't need to tell everybody. Just be yourself, film it, and maybe someone else will film it or something. And also, adding on to something else that was said earlier on that I wanted to mention, in terms of the kind of representation that I offer through my feed, sometimes it's really heavy stuff and I speak on important things, but at the same time, my next slide when you're tapping through my story might be me, trying a new chai spot. It might then be me showing you my really pink outfit, and that's cool. I'm just a girl, I think it's cool to have range, and don't try and market yourself. As I was saying earlier on, we're not products, we're just people. Yeah.
I think as well with the term EC or ESEA, however you pronounce it, I think it is used to kind of pigeonhole people politically as well, because it's easier to bunch us all together and to make fair assumptions. But the spaces that hold these EC conversations, it's also very intersectional, because most of the people having these conversations are predominantly middle class, well-educated, and can voice what they want to say, and they're using that privilege. But then what about the communities of the EC that wash dishes in a takeaway shop or that do the mundane jobs? How are we also going to represent that part of the community? Because it's not one-dimensional. So I think it is important to have those discussions, but also to think about how we are representing the EC community as a whole and not just those that have the privilege to attend such discussions and that can talk in length and have such a good vocabulary. There are some that might not, and they should also be considered as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think the big thing, like my kind of issue with it is it's like we're kind of resonating what a lot of you guys touched on is even when you specify East and Southeast Asian, it's still a little bit like too vague to represent everyone. There aren't issues that capture everyone. It's like, like with Occasians, for example, I've avoided using the term EC to describe it. Obviously because of like my friendship groups when I first came to London, I grew up in Salisbury, which is an extremely it's a very white area, very, very white area. I only had 3 people who weren't white in my in my year at school. We all sat next to each other and were good friends, and that didn't help the bullies. Like when I came here, I immediately just like gravitated to anyone who could relate to me in the slightest. Like, oh shit, you eat rice as well? Fuck. Let's go get fucking bubble tea. Why not? Let's get dim sum tomorrow, Korean barbecue the next day. Why not? Let's make that my entire friendship group. And I think a lot of Asian people in the room can probably relate, even if you didn't have that like transition period. Yeah. But yeah, like I don't want to like pigeonhole and make Occasians to be like a thing just for this certain group, and you can't come, even though you might also have similar experiences in the creative industry. So yeah, it's sometimes a question in my head for like, should I specify? Should I fucking, start to pigeonhole it a little bit? Which is kind of why I leave it intentionally a bit vague. But also I think it's good to have, the main issue with the creative industry, and not just being Asian, but being most migrant communities can relate to it, is, for a lot of us, this is not what our parents wanted us to go down. Like, we all can't be doctors and lawyers. That's one thing that I think most migrant communities can relate on when it comes to their kids going into the creative fields. And I think it would just be really counterproductive if I just brought in a load of people into a room who can all relate to that, and they all just were like, oh, isn't it hard being us? Oh, it's so hard. And not be able to invite the people who don't experience that, and the people who are actually in power, who can give out those jobs, who can hear us out, because, I don't know, I've just been into way, way too many events where it's just been, like, they always advertise it as like a safe space. This is just for Asians. And you go there, and it's just a bunch of people saying, oh, isn't it hard being us? And then you go home, and there's no progress, there's nothing been made. So that's why I try to keep Occasians quite open. I always try to specify it's for championing Asians. If anyone wants to, or just wants to hear Asians out, take a look at their work, take a look at their careers. You can come. Like, you don't even have to be in the creative field. I just think you just gotta be welcoming in these kind of spaces. I sidetracked a little bit, and I forgot what I was going to ask.
Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
I think similar to kind of like how you're saying, we shouldn't be kind of inviting people in to talk about, or to kind of like gather negative energy in one room, right? And it's like, oh no, it's so tough. I think I'd like to invite people to think about it this way, because that's how my brain works. Why do you share your food with someone you like? You don't give someone your favorite chicken place because you don't like beef, right? No, it's like, oh, I hate beef. This is my favorite chicken place. You don't start with that. You start with, I love this thing. Let me give it to you. And that's how love spreads. And for me, I think that's how, like, I'm trying to look at this whole, I'm not going to say issue, but like, whole thing. Because like, I'm a Filipino, but Korean food is my number one. I love Korean food.
Traitor.
Traitor. But like, last Christmas, I made for the first time I made my first, I made my favorite Bisaya dish to share with my girlfriend. She's Jamaican, she cooked rice and peas, and we had a Filipino-Jamaican like Christmas dinner, and like, stuff like that. It's you don't share the things you love because you hated something or you didn't like something. You share it because there's genuinely deep love for something that you want to talk about.
And then also talking about mixing the kind of like sharing what you love and also the kind of speaking someone's name in the room that they're not in. I feel like events like this is amazing, where you sort of learn about other people's heritages and like their cultures. Becky was part of the Handbook Walk, and like I learned so much about Korean culture through that. And then I'm part of kind of National Asian Wedding Fair, which is mostly kind of South Asian kind of wedding and kind of like the dresses and the lengas and the duputtas and everything. And for me, I'm like, oh, it's incredible to learn about all of this so that if something comes up, me like, oh, I heard that you did this in the South Asian community. It's like, yeah, but who else you could talk to about this? The people I worked with and, people who know about it and, like, these amazing creatives, yeah, I'll link you up. Here are their Instagrams. Go. Talk to them about it. So it's like, it's about sharing what you've learned, what you've loved, your experience of it, and then bringing along the people who brought you in with it. So, yeah.
Amazing. All right, guys. So we've come to the end of the panel. I just want to end this with a little quick fire round.
Oh, no.
This is where I'm going to ask you some questions, and you have to answer within, what shall we give them, 2 seconds? 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I'm stressed
already.
You pass it on.
No, I'm stressed.
You pass it on. You have 2 seconds to answer.
Is it here?
Yeah, you take it in turns. You go in this.
Oh my god. Okay.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Why am I so stressed?
All
I
right.
think so. Okay. You got this.
Question 1. Favorite Asian dish?
Kimchi. Byangbyangmyeon.
Linatan.
Sinigang.
Question 2. Favorite actor?
Lee Sung-jun.
2 seconds up.
George. He's my favorite.
Maynard.
Jackie Chan.
You took mine! The Mum
2
and Crazy-
seconds up.
The Mum and Crazy Rotations!
Favorite Asian musician?
Drunken time. Dean.
No.
That was easy.
Nick Velasco.
Lea Salonga.
Yeah, me too.
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be? Who? Bruce Lee? Bruce Lee! Doesn't have to be Asian. 2 seconds is up.
Jesus. Why did you say that? Not the
Maynard.
red wine.
My great granddad.
Oh, Michelle Obama.
He's my granddad.
Okay, question 5. Your favorite Jollibee order?
Spaghetti. I've had the pie.
What was that, sorry?
I've had the pie.
She's had the pie.
That's all I've had.
Maynard.
3-piece chicken, spicy chicken burger, and mango peach pie.
Single piece spicy chicken with rice and gravy.
Single peas. Okay, favorite film? 2 seconds up. Nabila.
Endgame.
Maynard.
Everything ever all at once.
Any Christopher Nolan film.
Okay, Asian city you haven't visited but would love to.
Malaysia. Jakarta. The whole of Malaysia.
To Malaysia. Maynard.
Saigon.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Favorite dessert?
Hello.
Oi! Oi!
Philippines!
Right, Nabila.
Handish.
Leche flan.
Toronto Banana Queue.
Favorite anime?
Samurai Champloo.
Naruto and School Rumble.
One Piece.
Haikyuu.
Favorite non-Asian? 2 seconds up, Nabila.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mate.
Through my online store alone, we've sold over 500,000.
My girlfriend.
I was always going to say my boyfriend as well.
There we go. Favorite member of BTS?
RM.
CK, but he's not in BTS. Make my
Mate.
own rules.
Jungkook.
I don't have a favorite.
Can't pick one. Favorite country in South America?
Where's South America? Peru.
Peru.
I
Nabila.
don't know any of them.
What
Whatever
was-
she said.
Peru again.
Brazil.
Also Brazil.
There we
My
go.
geography's really
Favorite
bad.
Pokemon?
Oh, the one that you said that reminds me of you. No, you of me. That one.
Jirachi.
2 seconds up.
Yeah.
Nah. You don't have a name. Darkrai.
Woo!
Pikachu.
There we go. And lastly, your proudest accomplishment.
I think for Hangout
2 seconds
Hapa,
up. Sorry. Go on.
for Hangout Hapa, the proudest accomplishment was pitching a story to BBC to come to New Malden for Chuseok, which is a harvest festival, and showing them how North and South Koreans come together to celebrate. And they bought the story and they shared it in a really, really positive way. And it was just, for me, it was such a monumental moment because it shows how peace could be on the peninsula, and it's just crazy that it happens in New Malden, Koreatown. So that's my proudest moment.
Yeah, it's not 2 seconds, but so I run an independent charity shop, and in September 2021, I organized a collection drive for refugees that came from Afghanistan after the rise of the Taliban. So I think that was pretty cool because I got to meet people who actually fled the country and then were staying in hotels in the UK. People were very generous in donating items from across London, and I managed to give it to them directly. So that was quite cool.
Mine's so simple. Just starting a community with my business partner and best friend, and eating with everyone. I think that's my greatest achievement. Like just eating whatever food they want to with like loads of different people, and it's so happy and open. I think for me, it's always a great achievement.
You said you like One Piece. It makes sense. It makes sense.
I'm going to be really cheesy and be like, just all of it. Like, the life up to this point, I feel like, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. Like, we are the result, and we are our grandparents' and parents' dreams. Like, we made it over. We made our lives here. Like, life isn't too difficult. So, like, it's fucking hard as well. Like, we can't just be like, oh, it's the dream. We're living their dream. Amazing. Bish, bash, bosh, done. Like, no, it's hard. Like, life is hard. And just so that we have made what we're making and, like, doing what we're doing and the conversations we're having here, where we are now, that's a big achievement in itself. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. All right, everyone, give it up.
2 seconds, go.
I don't know, putting on this panel. Thank you, everyone. Big round of applause for our panelists. For videography, please hire. No, I just would like to say thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who came down tonight, listened to us talk. I'm sure some of the issues that we touched on today, we could have gone on for many more hours talking potentially aggressively and passionately about. But yeah, thank you, everyone, for being a great audience. before I let you guys go and drink and network and do your thing, I just wanted to say that the next Occasions event does have a date. I want you all to pencil in the 6th of September. I can't say too much more other than we have quite a well-known collaborator. I can't say anything more than that. But it's basically what we've been doing so far, but with a budget that expands more than my bank account. So I'm pretty proud of what's to come, and I would like you all to be there. So pencil it in. Of course, it's always free. It's occasion, so it's free. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming along today. Remember to follow us on Instagram, occasions_London. Shout out the event when we do announce it officially. You guys are the first people to know who aren't involved. Yeah, thank you guys.
Can we get a photo with everyone? Is that going to be logistically difficult?
Yeah, oh yeah, let's do that. Oh, and lastly, big up RJ and the Looking Glass Cocktail Club. Well, let's all, everyone buy a drink.